Good evening, traders. This is the first day of December, and what an unbelievable trading session this was. And in fact, this was a valuable lesson for all traders, beginners, regulars, and crafty veterans. And I am going to show you how this day really unfolded and how they really set up everybody. Um, I have not posted a video in a while. In fact, my last few videos were informing most of my traders from my group and to those who pay any attention to my videos that the market, and this was a while ago, this is when we were topping out up here around 4,700 and kept challenging all the while the Dow was challenging and fighting 36,000. And I spoke to you about how to take advantage of the weaknesses at the upper extremes. So, I mean, the market has a lot of work to do in terms of proving whether or not it's capable of holding those levels. And there's a lot of interesting things looming in our economy that this is before the pandemic or before this new virus hit in Europe and is threatening the US. Um, red flags were popping up, a lot of inflationary signals. We were having issues getting products into our country and out of country. Uh, these are normally things that affect the stock market, and yet the market seemed to have a complete divide or a disconnect with all of this. And on top of all of that was the fact that they're going to be cutting back on these bond purchases and rates are going to start going up. So, the market at some point is going to factor that in. When they do that, one never knows. But what I spoke about in my videos, and if you go back on some of them, I talk about how there were cracks, and we kept fighting these extremes at 4,700, and we would fail. And then we got ourselves into a bunch of chop down in here, and the market, at least in terms of the bulls, we're fighting it at about 45.70 over and over again. And we would get these big run ups, but you could see they were failing at the 9 and 18 constantly, and which was coming in around, 46, I don't know, somewhere around 46.40. And just getting above 4,600 for days was a big issue in the ES. But what happened today was just really, and I've seen it. I've traded this enough to I recognize this, and I feel bad because I think a lot of traders just get manipulated in this type of price movement. So I'm going to try to bring this up to see how much I can show you here quickly enough for you to get a read on what took place because Europe overnight shows them run up a little bit. And all they can do, they never got below 4,600. They pierced it. And we had a settlement that was all the way down here where you notice by this arrow right down there. That is settlement. And we ran away from it. That's a big gap. And you're in a corrective trading session. Not saying that we can't stop and rebuild back to the upside, but usually in this chop, there's a good chance that we should fill the gap a day, 2 days, but to run away like this is a bit much. And as a trader, you have to be aware of that. And you can't get caught in a hype. And right after this morning's bell, they gave you that first sell off and they stalled as well at 4,600. And then the big boys took advantage of it, got it back up over this moving average and around 46.20, and they accelerated from there. And they took off, and look where they peaked. The 9 and 18, 46.40. It's a bit much and a bit early considering what the market has to digest. That just like that, we're going to just come right back in to this bull trend accelerating phase. I mean, this market has been overdue a long time now to correct and correct properly. And it seems like there's plenty on the table for it to work with. And this is a classic case of them manipulating price, pushing it up to the 9 and 18. I'm bet you a lot of traders got caught up in this. I got quite short. I was fading this area. I felt this market should roll over, but it didn't. They pushed it. I got caught up in that a little bit, and I got a little punishment myself, but I didn't give up because I didn't believe that this market was going to hold these levels. And lo and behold, a little after noon, they came back and they tested these MAs at 46.28 right after we tapped out that new high, and that comes in right here, and you can see this big green box. This is this whole area down in here at the moving average that they tried to hold. As you got the sell off, there's your high. That's your 9 and 18 daily right here, and we're on our way. And there's some swings in there, and they tried, and they kind of gave way right here, little bit before 12 o'clock, and they started to fade. And then they challenged the first resistance level, which turned out to be a big number right here this morning. They exploded off of that number at 9:45, and the institutions just jammed it. They got everybody on board. Everybody's already somewhat positive, somewhat long, and now they jam you all the way up here, and everybody thinks the low's in place, and all they did was set everybody up. And there's your breakdown. And then once we came back down to the MAs, they blew right through it. And now it's all right. Well, how much of this gap? And they tried to challenge it. There were a couple pretty bounces up here, and now the move is to settlement, which is 45.77. And it took a while. There were some significant bounces. There were some opportunities from both sides. But here's the difference. Once we rolled over and took out this MA at 46.27, we never came close to it again. And 4600, all that support right here, became the resistance for the second half of the day. And it was right in here where they digested it a little at 12:30 before 1 o'clock, and then they gave up. And then it was time to fill the gap. And they got to the pivot first, and eventually, right there, they tapped the gap. That was a gap right there at 77. And then you got some power bounces. This one right here was a great long, and then it rebuilt right there. And look where it faded, 4600. Again, that became resistance. Back down to 77. Well, it took a while. 74. They did it again. Took it out by a few handles. Read the blue, and another great long. And then, although this one faded after about 7 handles, and then it became the Bears controlled the session completely. And interesting enough is that throughout this process, as I was speaking to some of my associates, I kept wondering why the NASDAQ was holding up so strongly throughout this process. Everybody else has rolled over. In fact, look at the Dow. The Dow has blown through its 200. This is bear territory. And the Dow was giving you that signal all along. I mean, just look at this. And then, oops, here's a trend line. Pretty much we can watch this and pay attention because those are your super extremes to the upside now. They're a long way from those trend lines, but this market's in trouble now because the Nasdaq eventually caught to the downside, and they broke some key support at around 16,000 even. They are just slightly under it now. So I mean, we got some problems here, and you can see right now you got to bounce. They closed at 4,500. They closed below the 50. I think the 50 is going to be a key area to pay attention to tomorrow. That's right there, coming in at around 45.35, and you're going to have to lean off of that to give you any idea if they're going to hold on. I mean, this is big time brewing, and we are approaching the of bear territory, huge. And you can see we're most likely going to challenge the 100. If we get underneath 4,500, it's already down there around 48, 80. It's not far away. And, the panic's already hit this market. Obviously, this is a huge reversal. And it's a classic setup by the institutions, taking advantage of some of the longs that are in the market already, pushing it a little further, getting everybody all caught up there, and then the reversal. And this is why it reverses so hard, because you get longs who have to puke their positions, and then you got the bigs just pressing it, because the reality is this market was far from real over in terms of correcting, and they proved it today. That's a monumental reversal, and now the Nasdaq is on board as well. So you're going to want to be smart and pay attention tomorrow. I don't know where our levels are at right now. Let's take a look at it. I want to see how well they. There's a big trading day, so the range is going to be huge. In fact, the daily pivot is all the way up around 46.54. I mean, that's kind of no man's land, so to speak. So I don't know. It is oversold. It was a big hit. I don't know how much they're going to wrap this up. There has been a lot of talk around 4,500, and for good reason, because underneath it, there's nothing but air, and that's probably the biggest concern is how much more are we going to correct, and 10% could take us down well below this 200 daily moving average. But let them prove it. It's unfortunately we've been in a situation for a long time, all year. We know this market has had these sell-offs. They usually give it to you 1 or 2 days, and then the value seekers come in and they ran it back up. This one looks completely different. A lot of key levels have been broken, and all markets are showing the distress of it all. Pricing is just broken down completely. This is an ugly picture in the Dow. That is a huge sell-off, and the Nasdaq seems to be on the same. This right here is their 50, so they're lagging a little bit, but once they breach the 50 to 100, it's almost automatic. So, we're just going to have to see. I don't know how they're going to come in. You can see this trend line right here coming in around 44.60. It's somewhere, I think that's right about in here, just below the 100 MA. So we'll deal with that when we get there. Right now, it's about the 50. Whether or not we can get above it, and whether or not the buyers could come up and give a little bit of a push, it's very possible. You got to be smart about these run-ups. They're set up sometimes, and today was a classic example of it. A lot of money was lost in this run-up, and huge reversal to the downside, and an exceptionally horrible close. So we're going to just have to see how this plays out over the next few days. I have not been on it for a while, guys. I hope this analysis is going to help you break these markets down. Just got to be smart. You got to be patient. Don't get caught up in the hype, and play with the facts and what the market is telling you. And don't just get on board because everybody else is getting on board. Always get proof and confirmation of the trades you want to put on. All right, like right now in here, you have a temporary buy commercial, interest at these levels, which sit just below the 50. I don't know if they're going to hold up. The market took a big hit. Ideally, we should come back down to this number S1, which is below this 100 and right to that price point, in fact, that I just discussed, 45.50 or 44.50. I take it back, 44.50. So we're in a corrective trade, and you have to respect that, And just because you get these, you take advantage of the bounces off the support levels. Of course, everybody else is as well, but don't get caught up in it. Think it's happy days are here again, and we're just going to ram them back to the highs. And today was a classic example of that not happening and them respecting these averages at that giant run up this morning. So take advantage of your trade. And look, once again, just be patient, wait for your areas, and you know execute. Manage your trades carefully. Make sure you have your stop orders in. It's going to be volatile and it's going to be choppy down here because it's getting in dangerous territory and there's going to be panic swings back and forth. So use caution with your trade today and be careful. You guys want to discuss this any further? Reach me out at mlbino@aol.com. I'll be more than glad to share some more insight on this. But once again, I've been placing these videos on MR strategies. I don't do them daily anymore, just too much. I think it's overwhelms the traders. I think if you guys really want to see how to do this on a regular basis, then reach out to me. Otherwise, I'll give you these like weekly breakdowns once in a while and give you an idea of how to play this. So right now, you're between the 50 and 100. Watch these levels, very important, and take your cue from them, and also pay attention to what's happening across the board. And like I said, the Dow is well under 200. Okay, it's not like it tapped this 200 and bounced, and it could find some support down here. This is bear territory for the Dow. We don't have confirmation yet on the Nasdaq, so I don't know. I don't know if the Nasdaq is due one big hit, and in fact, if it does, will it also take the ES with it? I don't know. You can see right now this is the last stand is coming in right down there at about 44.50, and we are approaching bear territory. So, I always talk about market state, guys, and how it helps you decide what to look for. And obviously, we've been running in a bull trend extreme for so long, and it's all a bit about taking advantage of the sell-offs and buying the value because the market was just so underlying market was just so strong. But you got a huge change now in market state. We are in corrective trade. It's not a bull trend anymore. It's corrective, and you have to respect that. And with that, you got to look for the opportunities to the downside because it is correcting, but you also want to respect the underlying support levels, but make sure you get confirmation. Do not step in front of it because this market could be setting up for a much bigger hit to the downside. Like I said, 10% is well down here, somewhere around, probably around 4,300, give or take. I don't know the exact. You guys should, take 10% off the top and get an idea. But this is MR Strategies. My name is Mike Rabinowitz, and feel free to reach out if you really like what you see. There's a lot of money to be made in trading futures. A lot of people like to trade stocks, stock options, but there's so many opportunities in the futures. So reach out and take advantage of what you hear and, make some money. Good luck. Have a great night. I'll talk to you guys soon.